Air Combat would be an extremely popular flight simulator that would see an early release on the PlayStation console way back during its early years that would end up being a surprise hit on the system. And with that success, it was inevitable that Namco were always going to somewhat capitalise on it, although it would take almost 2 years for a sequel to really see the light of day, which it did so with Ace Combat 2. Now, not to confuse you, because with Air Combat, obviously for region specific purposes and ports, various games were rebranded under different names depending on the region they were in. But with the sequel and later moving on with the series itself, it would stick with the Ace Combat brand, which I think was a good move. So Ace Combat 2 expands on the original, giving access to even more fighter jets, with 24 in total, across 21 different missions, each with distinctive objectives that can take approaches from anything such as protecting your base from enemy fire, intercepting squadrons of enemies, and even taking down other aircraft. Even though the first game was very good in how it approached flight simulators, even for its time it was lacking in many regards. So with the sequel, it managed to capitalise not only just on the gameplay elements and the control features with more smoother control systems and gameplay, but even the visuals were leaps and bounds ahead of what was seen in the original game. So much so that the game was a commercial success in Japan, selling over 500,000 copies by May of 1998, and was heavily praised among critics within magazines and article reviews. And this would also help with the future success of the series moving forward, with the likes of Ace Combat 3 and other sequels further down the line, even ports on other systems, but also end up being very popular. Now, I will admit, even looking back during the early days of the console when I first played the PlayStation, there was a lot of these type of games, especially with flight simulators, I didn't really understand, and to be truthfully honest, I wasn't as into them as I would have thought I would have been. It took a long time to really adapt and to grow, or just even want to play them, because I was more used to playing racing games, anything that looked or sounded like games like survival horror with Resident Evil, platformers, fighters. They were more my thing, so anything that was outside of that norm I usually stayed away from in many regards. But in saying that, as the years have gone on, I found myself revisiting many of these older catalogues, and even in recent years going back and just allowing myself to try out a lot of these games that I never gave myself the opportunity to back then, or even the permission to. And let's just put it this way, from a more recent perspective, I now understand why these games are so successful, and in all honesty, I really should have allowed myself to play them a lot sooner. Again, it comes back to the fiddliness, I think, of the controls and not really sure of what to do. And in fairness, when I was younger, I wouldn't have been the most patient of players to really learn and adapt through things. But I suppose with age comes experience and even more patience in some shape or form. Well, that's what I like to think anyway. But I find with a lot of these games now, by sitting down and playing them, you can really see their potential, and they really are a lot better than you would think. And in a lot of ways, their controls aside, they are a lot of fun to play. Yes, and some of them might be clunky and fiddly, but with practice, you do get the hang of things and you understand how the game operates. And I have to say, with these type of games, while I may not have played them all that much back in the day, they are definitely worth playing now, or still worth playing now. And I found I had a lot of fun playing this. Once I got through the first few missions, I found myself wanting to keep playing it, which was something that never would have happened years ago. So I now understand why these games were so successful back in the day. But then all you have to do is look at the reviews that the games got, especially with the likes of the sequels. Like, they really were successful. And Ace Combat 2 would literally lay the foundations for one of the best games, pretty much, if not the best game in the series, with Ace Combat 3. That would be the last entry to be released on the PlayStation. There's a good pacing to the game regards to the missions. Once you know what you're doing, you'll be able to figure things out very, very quickly. And in many cases, you're not really restricted so much to time, especially in the earlier missions, where you can just take your time to figure out what to do, how to get familiar with the controls, and just take it at your leisure in order to try and take down opponents and complete the objectives. Yes, there is a fuel meter that acts as your time limit, but it isn't all that worrying, especially early on in the game. Now, obviously, when you play on different difficulties, that will become more apparent. But still, I found it to be a lot lot of fun, and way better than I gave it credit for. It's a great addition to the series. It's still worth playing even today, and like I said, it laid the groundwork for what was yet to come, so I would definitely recommend you give it a try. It's a good solid game in all respects, it really is. But regardless of what I think of it, what are your thoughts of Ace Combat 2? Do you enjoy these flight simulator games? Which one even is your favourite in the entire series? Not just on the PlayStation, what other sequels did you play on other consoles? So be sure to share it down in the comments below. And if you would like to see more content of games similar to this that were also released on the PlayStation, you can check out this playlist here on screen to see more of those games in action. And be sure to subscribe, as a lot more videos will be coming out of these more unusual games very soon. And as always, keep those gaming memories alive.